Welcome to United Jews channel.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tatiana Kurzner, and I have two of my sons are in high school, so this is very important to me too. So this meeting is important to teens and their moms to relieve some anxiety and stress regarding college and everything related to college and living home. So today is International Women's Day, and I would like to congratulate all women over here. And also, what a great present to all of us. If you think about it, this is like a backdoor to college event. We'll learn something new. We relieve our stress and anxiety. And I think this is a great present for, today. First question, why did you choose the community college route for yourself instead of going to a 4-year university? What colleges have you attended? What are you, where are you planning to transfer if you haven't transferred yet? So who wants to begin? Okay, Brianna, go ahead.
Hi, so I'm Brianna and I'm currently a senior in high school. I have my sophomore year, I was presented with an opportunity for this program provided by the College of San Mateo called Middle College. And when I heard about it, I was not too fond about it. I was more concerned about um having a high school experience, but then as I continued to talk to my parents about it, they're like, I think this would be great for you. And I started to realize it was. So my junior year, I switched from my high school to the community college, and I've been there since, and I'm planning to stay there for another year and then transfer. So I have all my units to transfer. And I think it's a great experience for anyone who is trying to branch out from being trapped in this like bubble of a high school like um group. And if you're more on the independent side and want to do things on your own without being held back, I highly suggest a community college. And also, it's a better opportunity to figure out what you want to do before you go to a 4 year and commit to that school.
Where are you planning to transfer, if I may ask?
Um, so I have like UCLA and um University of Southern California or San Francisco State and San Jose State. And then I was going into the middle college program wanting to be an orthodontist, but my first semester of senior year, I chose criminal justice instead. So I am choosing to go to a 4 year college and then come back here for law school.
Wonderful. Who wants to continue? Vicky, are you a speaker?
Yes, I am.
Sorry about that. Okay. Who's next? Karin, please.
Hi, I'm Karin. I am a fourth year college student at UC Davis. So went to community college because obviously it's much cheaper. And I also agreed that it's easier to transfer to a good school after community college. When I was applying from high school, you need a very high GPA to get into a good school like UC Davis or UCLA. You need over a 4.0. And from community college, you can do a program called TAG. I'm not sure if we're going to talk about it, but it's pretty much guarantee admission to a UC. There's a certain amount of UCs that you can go to, and you need a 3.2 GPA, and you need to have certain amount of classes completed for your major, and then you are guaranteed admission to whatever UC you decide. So I think it's much easier to get into a good school because of the GPA requirement, and also it's obviously a lot cheaper.
Can you please say what the name of the tag is or
That's what it's called. It's a tag program. I can type it in the chat, and it's pretty much you can talk to a counselor at your community college, and you say, "I want to apply for tag." You can Google tag to schools. So there's only, I don't think you can do Berkeley and I don't think you can do UCLA, but you can do any other UC, and you apply and you say that you want to do tag, and it's kind of like a form that says um, I am doing this certain major and I have a 3.2 GPA or higher, and I completed these courses that I need for my major. They tell you that, and then they accept you into the tag program, and they tell you, okay, you have 3.2 GPA or higher, you have all these courses, and if you have one course that you didn't complete, they will tell you, oh, you need to complete this history course or whatever other course. And then that's pretty much guarantee that when you apply, actually, you will get in. And you have to do that before the applications. I think around September, and they should tell you around Thanksgiving time, I think mine was.
Okay, wonderful. Please write in chat all the necessary information. Shelly, would you like to continue?
Sure. Just to say something really quickly about tag, it's a great option for a lot of people, but for some majors, you don't have it. So some majors have different GPA requirements and some majors don't have it. So you have to make sure with your counselor that it works for you and your study. My name is Shelly Michael. I chose community college because it was a cheaper option for me. The schools that I got accepted to out of high school were out of state, University of Washington and the honor school at University of Oregon. And so I chose not to pursue those because they were really expensive. And I attended De Anza College, and now I go to Columbia University.
Well, I'm sure we'll ask you more questions, but for now, thank you. Viky.
Yeah, my name is Viky. I'm Karin's sister. I look very similar.
Yeah, that you confused me for a second.
Yeah. So I have a similar experience to her. I'm currently finishing my last quarter at UC Davis, and I started at a community college for similar reason to what Shelly said. I knew that it'd be more beneficial for me to go to community college because it's cheaper. Obviously, I think most of us can agree, like, if you don't know what you want to do, I would suggest going to community college because you don't have to pay as much money and you can take the same classes. You don't have to declare a major, although I will suggest you do declare a major, because for many colleges, if you don't, you're the last person to be able to sign up for classes. So if you don't know, just declare a generic major like psychology or business, and you can change it. It's very easy to change for most colleges. So I think community college was very helpful for me to get into a school that personally wouldn't have been able to get into through high school. And then now I'm finishing UC Davis and I'm going on to grad school to Chapman University. So for me personally, I think it was a success story. So I know it can be for most of you guys, if not all of you.
Thank you, Viky. And Dennis?
Hi, so I'm Dennis. So I am finishing off my third year of college at UC Davis, and I transferred from De Anza College. I'm a bio major, and the main reason why I took the community college route is out of high school I had a 3.1 GPA, so I didn't even apply to any 4 years just because I knew I didn't stand a chance. And I just knew I wasn't even ready for a 4-year, like academically, and like I felt like community college was the best option just because of tag. And it basically taught me like how to study better, and I mean it's the best decision I made just because my GPA boosted way up, and I'm at Davis now.
Well, I think we have a lot of people from Davis here, but Malvis, please tell us your story.
Yeah, so I actually, from high school, I went to Davis, but then like COVID hit, and also like I was in the end of winter quarter, and I didn't want to, like I knew that for my second year I was going to come back home and go to community because I wanted to work and have like a job, and I felt like it was a lot harder to manage that at Davis, and I wasn't like ready to do that there. So yeah, so I went like back to community. So right now I'm at community, hopefully going to transfer back in the fall, but we'll see.
Which colleges are you attending right now?
I'm attending, since it's online, and the thing with Davis, like I wouldn't recommend this, honestly. But like, if you do end up going to a 4-year and you're like, I want to go to community college, after that, like, there's really no like limitation. It's not as strict as where you have to take classes from. So I'm actually taking classes at Dianza right now. So yeah.
Great. So the second question we have is, what was the registration process like? How did you decide on a major and pick classes? Did you decide to receive an associate degree or transfer or not? Well, I doubt any of you are doing associate degree, but maybe. Brianna, do you want to start?
So I am actually thinking of getting an AA before I transfer to a 4-year in administration of justice, and then getting a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And originally I wasn't thinking about it because I was thinking that maybe it's too much. But with the credits I'm earning, I can get an AA and have that transfer. And so I have a better opportunity. And the registration process, I was registered as a high school student and still am with my homeschool, but I'm also registered at the College of San Mateo at the same time. So anything that happens there, I get notified of it, and almost all my classes are there. I have 3 high school classes that I still take, but they're also at the College of San Mateo, so I don't ever have to go back to my homeschool.
Thank you. Karin, what's your story?
So I did a associate for transfer in psychology, and I highly recommend doing an associate's degree if you can, because personally, when I transferred to UC Davis, and now when I'm applying for graduation, they made sure that I have all my lower divisions completed, and it makes it a lot easier if you just got an associate degree, because they wouldn't give you an associate degree if you didn't finish something. So when I was transferring, I forgot to take one class, and when I applied for my associate degree, they told me that you didn't take it, so you can't get it. So before I got my associate degree, I made sure I took all my classes. So I highly suggest you get your associate degree and you check your IGETC, which is pretty much making sure that you finished all your lower divisions, because it makes it a lot easier afterwards when pretty much your university can't make you take any more lower division classes, because your associate degree and your IGETC shows that you completed all associate classes that were required. So it's really important.
May I ask you how many units or credits is associate degree?
I think it depends on different community colleges. I think mine was, I don't remember exactly, but I think it was about like maybe 40 or something like that. It wasn't a lot, because they make you, it depends on your major and depends on your community college, but they make you choose classes from different subjects. So each subject, let's say for general education, it would be like English and history and math. So one of them, you need to choose one from each one, pretty much for most general ed, but it depends. I know some community colleges require like 2 English classes and some only require 1, depending on just the community college.
So may I ask you this, do you recommend to start with one college and keep there? Do not go to other colleges, just to make sure that you cover all the requirements with this college, with the community college?
I think it's easier. Also, when you send your transcripts afterwards, if you took so many classes from different community colleges, it depends on what transfers, what doesn't transfer. If you can stay in one community college, it will probably be easier for you. If you really need to, I don't suggest more than 2, because it just makes it a lot harder to then send all your transcripts over and see what transfers over and what doesn't.
Oh, thank you, Karin.
I
Shelly?
have a question, sorry. So like I look at my son's classes, it looks like the community college that he chose, it's very difficult to pass one teacher who teaches, let's say, all subject classes required for that associate degree. So do you suggest is it okay to have 2 community colleges, like to take a major, like associate degree major classes at different community college, or it has
I
to be?
can answer that really quickly, and then I can move on to the
Yes,
question.
great, thanks, Shelly.
You can try and take that class, but I don't think it does any harm on your transcript if you take that class at a different college, and then you can transfer it over. Just make sure to talk to a counselor, and then you could go ahead and proceed with that. And then let me go back to the question that we had. It's question number 2. The registration process isn't too difficult. You can meet with a counselor and they could talk you through it. I actually came in as a business major, and then I decided to do political science after I really didn't connect with any of the business classes. I decided to receive an associate's degree. I actually received 2 associate's degrees. I received one in liberal arts, and then I did receive one in political science for transfer. I also received 2 certifications. I had a lot of time on my hands. I did 2 years at De Anza, which was plenty of time for me. So I wanted to get certifications at the end. And then, yeah, and I think that answers the question.
So in 2 years, you got 2 associate degrees, right? Did you do it for fun or just because you didn't know what you like, or why 2?
I think I don't think it's ever a bad thing to have an extra certification or an extra degree on your record. So I just wanted to do it. I followed IGETSI. I think Karin mentioned IGETSI, which is what you usually typically would follow if you're applying for a UC school. And then apart from IGETSI, after you complete that, there's only like a couple of extra requirements. I think it was 2 PE classes for me and then like an additional class. I also looked it up, and it's around 120 credits required for an associate's degree at De Anza, which will be different if your quarter semester. De Anza is quarter, so it's 120 units, which is very manageable in 2 years. Yeah.
Thanks, Shelly. Vicky?
Yeah, so I don't think it's very hard, like Shelly said, to apply. I would suggest you go on the website of the college that you're applying to. I actually ended up taking multiple classes there after I transferred to UC Davis, and I've applied to multiple colleges. There's going to be step-by-step instructions. Also, in some colleges, you might have to take like an extra class that's called like, it's like a prerequisite to be able to apply, but you can opt out of it if you want to. I know people don't know that, so you see your counselor and ask to opt out of it as long as you're finished high school and you graduated high school. You didn't even need to do well in high school, I'm sure, and you don't need to take that class. But yeah, I majored in English at first, and I just knew that I liked English. I didn't really know why English, but I actually ended up changing my major, and then I was a double major in linguistics and psychology. And I also got my associates for transfer. And just like Shelly said, it's beneficial to have an extra degree. And yeah, like Karin said, make sure that you do your IGETSI. If you get your IGETSI certification, they cannot make you, like Karin said, they cannot make you take any lower division classes, which is very important, because I know people that didn't know that. They didn't get their IGETSI certification, and then they had to take other classes when they got to their UCs. So it's not hard to do IGETSI certification. I know that might be like the first question. It's not hard. Basically, you have a piece of paper. If you're not sure, just type where to find a piece of paper, because now you can't go to a physical office. Type online IGETSI, and I can type it in the chat if you want. IGETSI for UC or CSU transfer. And by the way, this is they have it for private schools as well, but for private schools, it's more important to get your associates for your associate's degree, and for like UCs and state schools, it's more important to get your IGETSI for certification. But they're very similar, if not the exact same, at most colleges. So I got both, and I know like Shelly and Karin said that they both got both. So I'm sure it's not hard to get both. So I recommend looking to that. Just type in IGETSI, UC, and CSU, and you can do it that way.
Thanks, Vicky. Well, you can type anything you want in the chat. I'm sure it will be useful. Dennis, please.
Yeah, so like everyone said before me, registration was pretty straightforward. Like you can honestly sign up for like multiple community colleges in like one sitting. The the process is pretty similar. As for major, I knew I wanted to do pre-med like since high school, and so I chose biological sciences since that was the I mean it's very useful for like future medical stuff and it was very interesting to me. And for picking classes, I used a website called assist.org. I'll put it in the chat later. Basically, like you select what community college you're from and what UC or CSU you want to apply to, and it basically shows the requirements for what classes you need to take to transfer that are particular to the community college. And like everyone said, I get C, the form. I recommend that. That makes sure all your GEs are out of the way so you don't have to take any of them when you transfer. As for associate's degree, I chose not to get one. It required me to get to take a couple extra classes that I didn't really have time for. And for at least biological sciences, it doesn't really have much use. Even a bachelor's is kind of difficult to do much with. So I chose to skip the associates and just transfer.
Great. Malvis?
I'm just like, I use the assist.com in my situation because I technically was at Davis. I'm able to like contact my counselor directly there and ask them, hey, like just to double check, if I take this organic chemistry class, is it going to transfer over? But yeah, everything has really been set. Nice.
You know, I think you particularly answered the third question, which was what student support services or programs have you used? Which ones were the most helpful? If any of you have anything to add, please go ahead.
Personally, I've gone and seen counselors specifically for my major. Assist was a big thing that I used, but I will say, to be honest, at my college, they weren't very helpful. I felt like they didn't have all the information. I don't know if everyone has like similar experiences, but that was my experience. I know at my UC, they were a lot more helpful. So maybe some colleges do have great advisors and counselors. So for me, I mostly just use iGetsy and Assist. And if you complete all the classes, if you know what you want to major in and what school you want to transfer to, just finish your iGetsy and finish every class on Assist, and you're basically guaranteed admissions. I mean, if you get good grades, obviously. So I wouldn't 100% trust any counselors, but obviously I'm not saying don't go see them. I still did. I just also looked myself, and if anyone ever needs help, I can also write my email down. You can always email me, because I know you can't 100% know exactly what you're doing, and I got help, so I suggest you get multiple opinions.
Thank you, Vicky. Anybody else wants to add? Okay, well, moving to question number 4. Did you receive financial aid, California Promise Grant, or other grants or scholarships? Did you have to pay out of pocket for tuition, textbooks, parking, or anything else? Brianna?
So the only things I've had to pay for are textbooks and parking. Other than that, there was nothing else I had to pay for.
Because you are in high school and it's covered, you mean?
So it's a program at the College of San Mateo, so I'm considered both a high school student and college student, but I'm mainly in the designated high school building at College of San Mateo. So I only pay for the textbooks that are needed for the college classes I'm taking, and then before COVID, I had to pay for the parking pass, and that's it.
But what if you're done with all of your high school classes? You still don't pay for classes? I'm trying to understand. Sorry.
So I'm not going to be done with the high school classes until I'm graduating this May from high school. So when I enroll as a full-time College of San Mateo student for the fall semester and next spring, then I will have to pay for my classes and the books and everything that follows.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Brianna's mom, Joanna, and I can tell you that in San Mateo Community College, the 1 year she will stay to get her AA degree in criminal, what is it, law enforcement or whatever, Brianna, you're doing, I get confused. But anyway, all we have to pay is just for classes, very cheap because we're residents of San Mateo County, and the books. So basically it's about, I want to say $2,000 a semester maybe, or even a year. It's really, and she's ahead of the game. So she only, at the end of her senior, so at the end of this year in May, she'll only need 20 or 18 more credits to finish up to the 60 and to get her AA. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joanna, for clarifying. Okay, Karin, do you want to say what's your story?
In community college, yeah, it was much cheaper to pay for classes. In UC Davis, it's a lot more expensive. So yeah, I have to pay for all my classes. And I didn't pay for parking in university. I did in community college because I had to drive. But in university, I suggest try living closer to the university because there's often like buses, if possible. It depends on your school. There's often buses or there's ways to walk there as long as it's not raining or snowing if you are moving somewhere far. But I didn't pay for parking because it's a lot of money and useless. Textbooks, there is a website, I'll try to type it in the chat, where you can find free textbooks. I don't think all of them are on there, but in my luck, I haven't had to pay for a textbook this quarter or last quarter at all because they were all online. So if you can, try to find them online because they're very expensive. And in university, a lot of my professors have actually given me their textbooks because they wrote them, or they're like a little cheaper because they wrote them, so they understand. So if you can, or if you have a friend who is in a class, a lot of the times the textbooks are online and you can download them as a PDF. There's always ways to go about it so you don't have to pay as much for textbooks. But yeah, definitely like the school is the most expensive thing.
Thanks, Shelly.
Oh, I think that was Karin.
Thanks, Karin. Shelly. Sorry, I'm
No
trying to keep.
worries.
I have like a deadline. We have to finish by 6. We have to move on.
No worries. I didn't receive financial aid directly at community college, but I was very involved in community college. So in my last year, I got a lot of scholarship money that was more than I've ever paid for community college and helped me pay for my university. I currently pay my own tuition at Columbia. So my parents help me with textbooks, but I pay my tuition. So I saved up for that. And Columbia is providing me, they're a private school, so they're very expensive, but they're providing me with a lot of grants to be able to help. So I've been paying for my education.
Wonderful. Okay, Vicky.
Yeah, I didn't get any help at community college, but just like Joanna said, it's like $2,000 or something like that. It's compared to how much you pay for private school and even public school, like university, is a lot more expensive. Books, yeah, I paid for books and parking too. I know depending, like if you go on their website, you can get a discount if you pay like right up front for a full year rather than just like a semester or quarter for parking. And like Karin said, there are ways to go about books, but I know books I found mostly on Amazon and other things because the bookstore tends to be a lot more expensive. So if you can search them up on like Amazon, eBay, they're probably going to be your best friend if you want to save money.
Thank you, Vicky. Dennis?
So for me, I couldn't get anything with FAFSA, but my parents covered everything, and like everyone said before, community college is probably around 2,000 a year, maybe a bit less. As for textbooks, yeah, like downloading a PDF online, I'd recommend that. But some classes, at least in my case, would want to use like an online textbook with like problems involved. So you can always get away with that. So I'd kind of check with each each situation, go from there. And I lived right next to the community college, so I just walked.
Great. Malvis.
Yeah, I didn't get aid while I was at Days. That was kind of like the real driving factor of why I decided to go back to community. And the classes there are like significantly cheaper. And also you learn the same, if not more from my experiences. Because at community, most of the professors are like focused on teaching. Whereas if you go to like these big research universities like Davis, the professors really don't care. They're mostly there to just lecture, and then you could talk to them, but it's kind of hard for like certain majors. So yeah, community just a lot of accessible. Also textbooks. When you're looking for textbooks, yeah, the site that was just recommended is what I use. Or I would spend like an hour or longer like looking for a free textbook because I'm not trying to pay their costs. It's kind of a lot, so you avoid as much as you can. So yeah.
Okay, moving to question number 5. What tips can you give prospective students about choosing classes? Have you made any mistakes? So let's talk about mistakes. How many units should students take each semester, in your opinion? Brianna?
So, from my perspective, I suggest going the route of a community college first, because if you're very undecisive and you don't know what you want to do, a community college helps with that because you get to like play around with all the courses you want to take. And for example, I was taking a chemistry class while still thinking of being an orthodontist, but I was also taking a law course to see how that was. I was taking it for fun, but I didn't realize I'd fall in love with it as much as I am in love with that major now. And I suggest possibly taking a minimum of 12, maybe 15, depending on how flexible of a schedule you have. And so it's not too overwhelming.
Thank you, Brianna. Karin, how many classes did you take?
So this differed in my community college and in UC Davis. So my community college, in the beginning, I did 12, but on average, I say I did about 15 or 16 because I wanted to make sure I got all my classes. I also was a little crazy and took classes that I didn't even need just because I was interested. But definitely what Brianna said, make sure you can get good grades. Don't just take 16 units and get C's because it's a lot harder to go back and retake all those classes and get A's in them. But your GPA really does matter, especially if you want to go into graduate school afterwards. You can't really retake all your classes. But in UC Davis, it's a quarter system school. So my very first quarter, I took 12 units, and then they recommend doing 15 in order to graduate on time. I didn't need to take 15 every quarter because, I don't know, I took a lot in community college, so I think I just had enough. But they recommend between 12 and 15. I know people who have even taken 20, but that's crazy, and I don't recommend you take that many unless you want to like push yourself really hard. But mistake-wise, I haven't had too many mistakes with classes. I think it's really useful to go on, I put a link in the chat for Assist that I think somebody mentioned. It's really helpful to find classes on there, especially make sure your classes transfer to your university. Many classes don't transfer, so make sure you're taking the classes that transfer based on your major and the university you want to go to. And there's also a way to just go online and Google, like I Googled UC Davis psychology major, and you can find the exact classes you need. And there's checklists, you can talk to counselors. But mistake-wise, I think the only thing that's kind of like harder, and I think that's a question towards the end too, with like a bad thing with community college is once you transfer, you only have, most of us, 2 years in university. And so you need to do everything a lot faster than people who have 4 years in university. So make connections with teachers and find like internships and research. So I think my only mistake was waiting a little bit longer, but I also got unfortunate with COVID. So I think just maybe don't spend your time thinking, oh, you have more time later, you need to do everything as soon as possible because you don't have as much time as you think you do.
If you take a class and get a C and then you decide to retake it and you get an A the second time around, what would be in your transcript?
The A should be in your transcript, but they're both going to show up depending on, so some schools require you to write both of them on their transcript. Like when I'm applying right now to graduate programs, they require me to put both of the classes that I took, but they will only count, your A would be the only one that will count towards your GPA. At least in my that's how it was for me, but I didn't retake any classes, but at least that's how my schools have done it.
I was under the impression that you can't retake a class if you get a C. I think you have to either get a D or an F in order to retake a class.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say too. I
So
think
you
you can't retake one if you get a C.
Yeah, if you get a C, you can't take the class again. The C will remain.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you maybe need to do like a petition for your school or something, for maybe something like that where you, I don't know, but I think that's why I've always been told that if you feel like you're getting a C and you want to retake the class, then it's better to fail the class because you can't. So yeah, it's true. I don't think you can't retake C classes.
Thank you. Okay, Shelly, did you do any mistakes? Do you make any mistakes?
Yeah, I think everyone can make mistakes, especially because college registration can be so difficult sometimes. I think one of my biggest mistakes was that I took my major requirements. So I'm a political science major. So the classes that I have to take for my major are political science courses. At community college, there are 4 classes that are offered for political science. And I took those a little bit too late. I started taking those my spring. So if you start fall, then you have winter quarter, then you have spring. So it was my 3rd quarter at university, and then I doubled up. So I took 2 political science courses my fall. And that's not the best because colleges care really to see the grades that you have in the classes that are related to your major. And so I took IGETSI, which is, the general requirements. So it was art and humanities. I took those first, and I didn't focus on my major requirements. It ended up not being a huge deal for me because I did fine in my classes, but I'd really recommend, as soon as you know what you're doing, start taking those classes. I know, and Dennis might be able to concur, in biology, it's really, really important to get started because you have series. So you have to take, I think, biology 1, 2, or 3, or A, B, and C, I can't remember. And so that means you have, if you miss one class, so let's say you start in winter and you take biology 1 in winter and you take biology 2 in spring, you're going to have to do another full year in order to be able to do that last class. So really get on those major requirement courses as fast as possible. And then how many units? Units are difficult because it depends on the school that you're going to. You have quarter schools and you have semester schools. So in a semester, since it's longer, you could take more classes and the units are lower. So I don't know what the conversion is, but I think in a semester school, you're usually, I think I was told to take between 12 to I know some people are, I think 19 is the crazy amount. And I think if it's quarter, it's a little higher than that. Adienza was a quarter school. So I usually would take I was usually at 19 units, which is too high. You don't need to be at 19 units. I did 19 between 18 and 19 units, depending on the class, which is 4 classes. And then 1 quarter, I remember I took 3 classes, but they were all honors classes. So I think being able to balance like that. I think really 5 classes is a stretch. Anything above that, you're at your own risk, but it's whatever you decide.
Shelly, I had a question about you because you transferred to a school which not a lot of people transfer, okay, from community college. I actually wanted to clarify what extra things you did for that, because I have noticed that probably 80% of people transfer to local California schools. And you did transfer out of state and at a school that it's hard to get in and all of that. If you can elaborate on that. Did you do anything extra? Because I think it's important for a lot of teens and parents to know, because it looks like it's pretty straightforward to transfer to a UC system, more straightforward than to choose another school out of state and hard to get into. Do you mind saying a few words?
Yeah, sure. I think there is merit in transferring really to any school, and any school is going to have their strengths for their specific programs. So I have mad respect to the people who transfer to the UCs. I was actually going to transfer to the UC. I applied to UC schools, and Columbia really came as a surprise to me. I really didn't think I was going to get in, but I can just like briefly say what I did extracurricularly. I joined this program so I'm political science. So all of my extracurriculars are really tailored to political science. So I did a program called Public Policy School, and so I met with legislators both in Sacramento and also in Washington, D.C. I also was a senator in my student government, and then I became I ran in an election to become student body president. I served as student body president for a year. I was an intern for an assembly member, and I was also an intern for Congressman Ro Khanna. I worked a lot on a bond campaign. I was able to advocate for student housing, so I secured $200 million for student housing on my campus. When I was student body president, I changed the mascot for the campus. So I did a lot of advocacy work. I also was a presenter for a bunch of different things, but I think that's like a little short summary. I think I'm forgetting a couple of things, but I think that's a little bit of a summary.
Thank you, Shelly. That was a very long list of accomplishments. Thank you. Okay, Vicky. Mistakes?
Yeah, so I'm actually paying for one of my mistakes right now, so I will explain. When I went to community college, I started off as an English major, so I thought I don't need to take classes like chemistry, biology, because it was way too hard for me. I still took biology, but I was like, it's just not my cup of tea. I'm not really good at those. And I took geography, which was still difficult for me, but I ended up getting an A, and I thinking, okay, it's all good. But now that I'm going to graduate school, and during my interview with Chapman that now I got into, my interviewer even mentioned that I need to make sure I take either physics or chemistry. So I suggest, even unless you're like 1000% sure you're not going to graduate school ever and you don't need it for your bachelor's, take biology and chemistry, because my counselors told me I don't need it. I thought I didn't need it, and now I'm going to take it, even though I am graduating with my bachelor's in a few weeks. But it doesn't matter for my graduate school. I still need it. And classes wise, I think I took 5 classes a semester, but I also did work. So I think it just depends on what your schedule. I suggest if you're going to semester school, college, you take about 4 or 5. I don't know anyone who took less than 4. Maybe start off with 4 and then you can build to 5, just because college classes are harder than high school. And I did the same thing at my UC also. I think it's around like 16, 17 units. I think that's like what I would say like is good. You can take like 12 or 13, like everyone else said too. Yeah, maybe don't go too much over like 17, 19. I know some people take 19, and that's a lot. If that's the only thing you're doing, then that's good. But I suggest you do other things, like you heard Shelly was saying, do other things to put in your resume, because your resume is important.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you for your mistake sharing with us, because that's very important. I actually heard about that one before. Wonderful. Okay, Dennis, any mistakes, or you just started? No mistakes yet?
So the only, I guess, it's not really a mistake, but I took like extra classes at the ANSA that like I didn't really have to. Like I took pre-calc to relearn it, and I ended up transferring like with the max amount of units. And that was like a concern because at UC Davis, there's like a unit cap of like you can't take more than that many units, and it counts the units from community college. So because of that, I have to like count how many classes I can actually take at Davis, which makes it very difficult. At the ANSA, I was taking my first year around 20 units a quarter, And then my second year, I took around 15. And at Davis, so far, I've been taking around like 16, 17. And it's honestly like a balance. Like if you can handle that much schoolwork, go for it. But you have to watch, like Shelly said, about like the series to make sure, because some classes don't get taught one of the quarters while another one does. So you have to make sure you time it all correctly. That's like the main thing I would watch out for.
Thanks, Dennis. Malvis.
In terms of mistakes, I think going straight to 4 year probably wasn't the move. I'm guessing lots of people are parents watching this. You get lots of parents, pressure, especially like if you're decent in high school. They're like, oh yeah, you gotta go to 4 year right away, or like your teachers. Like I think I wanted to ask my teacher, can you help me apply to community? They're like, no, because you don't want to go. And I said, okay. I was kind of mad, but it is what it is. But basically, you gotta kind of just like let your children do what they gotta do. They probably want like the best for themselves also. They're not gonna like go to community if they're like trying to transfer. They're gonna like work hard. They're not just gonna slack off. So yeah, just let them do what they want to do. That's like the mistake, really. E.
So Malvis, going to UC Davis right after high school for 1 year was a mistake. You can really say that.
I would say that it's different for different people. Like if some people really want to go to that 4 year, get that experience and like do that, then go ahead. But like realize that like if you're taking classes, I know for example like bio and chemistry, you're gonna learn the same thing because it's like imagine if someone wants to be a doctor and they took chemistry at a community college versus that they take chemistry at a UC. They cannot teach it where it's completely different subjects. Chemistry is chemistry. So it's going to be like kind of messed up if, one school teaches it better. Yeah, there's different professors, but the subject's like identical. And I honestly found like when I'm taking, for example, organic chemistry at community or when I was taking chemistry, like I learned more there than I did at Davis. Davis, I was just submitting assignments. Here, I was like trying to learn. So, yeah.
Thank you, Malvis. I think it's a very unusual story. You don't hear it every day. Okay, next question is very easy. Online versus offline. What do you prefer, and is it for everyone or not? What's your story, Brianna?
I'm very social, and my mom can vouch for me on that, but I prefer doing online because there's nobody distracting me. I'm not sitting in the hallways with people trying to talk to me, or there's other conversations around me. I get all my work done. I have my own schedule. I'm not being interrupted. The only interruption is having to go take my dog for a walk. Otherwise, I'm in my room doing school, then right after school, I'm doing homework. I'm not relying on anyone to help me. I'm not relying on people to meet up with me after school to do this assignment or something. I do it all on my own, and then I just submit it and I'm done. I do miss the social interactions and I do miss seeing people, but for me, online is a lot better.
So let me ask you, all of you guys. I mean, when the school opens, would you even want to go in person, or you could continue doing online? Uh, Nodding to what? Going back in person?
I would 100% want to go back in person. It's just a completely different learning experience. Like being able to actually, like online, when you're in a Zoom call with a professor, like even during office hours, like people are just going to ask questions. You can't even like get a word in. Like in person, you can come up, actually have a conversation, talk about their research or just in general about life. Like my best connections were in community college during the year and a half when I was in person because I was actually able to talk to my professors and like having that like one-on-one time was really nice.
I completely agree with Dennis. I think that the in-person environment is invaluable, especially if you want to apply for private schools. You're going to need recommendation letters. You're going to need to forge these really strong connections. So knowing your professors, and I think Dennis said it perfectly, like just talking to them after class is one of the most important things that you could do going in for office hours. And that's really hard to facilitate in an online environment. Also, some schools will not accept asynchronous credit, so you have to watch out for that. Some schools will just not accept online classes if you're applying, especially again, private schools. So you need to make sure. And also you get a lot of good opportunities being on campus. Your professors will let you know about activities that you can join. So I think an on-campus environment is really invaluable, and I would vouch for that. But again, it's really depending on the student. If online classes work better for you and you know that they work better for you, then that's your choice. And some students can't afford to take in-person classes.
Yeah, I agree with what Dennis and Shelly were saying. I took in-person classes at UC Davis and then ended up having to take some online too. And the ones in person, I connected with the professors a lot more. And when it came to writing a letter of recommendation, so for private schools, you really, like Shelly was saying, you have to really know the professor because they care about letters of recommendation, stuff like that. I applied for both private schools and public schools, but ultimately chose to go to private school, and I needed those. And if you don't have the interaction with the professors and also peers too, it's just making connections. You need to have other things besides school. Like I know Shelly was saying she did other things. It's a lot harder to do those things online. You need to have like internships, research, something to put on your resume, because if you think about it, a lot of people that are going to be applying to those programs are going to have similar grades as you, and just having a 4.0 won't make you like better than someone else, but having those other things will.
Okay, anybody else wants to add? Oh, well, and thanks, Brianna, for your note. I know you want to go back in person. That's wonderful. And the question number 7, what is the social life at your college like? Have you been able to make friends? Do you participate in any clubs or student government? So who wants to go, please?
So, for me personally, I've always been at a more mature level than those around me in any school. And being in this middle college program, attending the College of San Mateo, I found myself fitting in a lot better than I did anywhere else. And everyone was really on the same maturity level as me, and they knew what they wanted and they knew what they were going for. So it was very easy for me to get along with the other students and just be able to communicate with them. And it was easy for me to make friends and know that I can actually hold a conversation with someone who has the same interests or just knows what to say. And it's not like those simple one-worded answers.
Okay. Anybody who wants to add, please speak.
I think that the easiest way, especially I think with online classes, it's really hard to make friends in classes. But I had a trick for myself for especially when I transferred, is if you are not sure if you'll have a friend in your class, especially when you transfer, you might not know anyone. You can ask a person who's sitting next to you if you're in the right class. That was like my biggest trick to start talking to a person. That person would probably tell you yes or no, so they would be nice. And actually, one time I wasn't in the right class, so it was helpful. But that's a very good trick of making a friend in the class, or maybe like in the very beginning of class or after class, talk to the person next to you and say, hey, would you like to exchange phone numbers so we can have somebody to talk to just in case we have to miss class? High school is a lot different where like you call in sick and teachers really care. And especially also in community college, teachers care a lot more than they do in university. In my biology class, I had over 1,000 students. My professor didn't care if we showed up to class. He didn't take attendance. He didn't even lecture us because it's 1,000 students. It wasn't very individual. So you do need to make connections with people in your classes because it's a lot harder, especially in university when you have thousands of students in your classes possibly, and then especially like STEM classes like biology. So yeah, if you can make friends or join clubs, I definitely agree that for your resume, it's really important to join something. Talk to your TAs also. I found my research position from my TA. He recommended me. So your TAs might be really helpful, especially in university when your professors are really busy and don't care as much because there's other students. Your TAs are there to help you. So if you can talk to them, that's really useful.
All right. Anybody else?
I found I did student government, and most of my friends who were from student government. I made really, really great friends, and it was a really, really awesome time for me. It's not going to be your stereotypical. I mean, mostly it won't be your stereotypical, going to parties and things like that. And I think that's something that you kind of have to decide whether you really want that specific college experience. But I've definitely made really great friends and in my other groups. So it's a different social experience, but I think there is some merit to it.
Okay, and our last question is about more was summary, plus and minuses of going to community college before transferring to a four-year university. So anybody wants to start, please go ahead because we're almost at the time to finish, but we do have questions from parents and teens. So please, anybody start.
So, oh, my bad. I was at community for like this whole year, and I met some like really good people. Even though it's online, you really like. Other people said like you just gotta just like say hello. I don't think that necessarily being in an environment where there's 20 people per class or 300 people per class is really gonna make a difference versus like how you act. Like if you're more social or like to talk to people, you're gonna make friends. If you like to you don't prefer that, then you could really like focus on other interests. There's plenty of like organizations and community college that will cater to your needs. For example, and you also like get new experiences. One of my things is I was able to take a Vietnamese language class at community in Dianza, but I know that I would never be able to take that at like Davis because of like other like stressful classes. So at community kind of I wouldn't say it's less stressful, but it just offers more opportunities to take classes, you might not be as interested in and just like want to learn. So yeah, it's pretty lit.
Actually, I will give a negative to community college, even though I wouldn't change my experience. I just want to like play devil's advocate just for more to tell you like a kind of like almost like a mistake. Because I took like introduction to linguistics, which was one of my majors at community college. And then when I transferred, I felt like I was okay, I did well at that class, everything's good. But you have to make sure you know that you're behind like all the other students because the class isn't exactly the same. So yes, I think for like, like most like chemistry, biology classes, they're probably math classes, they're probably going to be the same, but there's still going to be classes depending on your major that won't be the same. So when you do transfer, you're going to be behind and you need to make sure you're on top of everything pretty early on. Even though I think community college is great, and if I had to redo my experience, I still would go. It's more like an advice, like make sure you don't relax after you get in to your university because it still goes by really fast.
In my experience, it was actually a bit of the opposite. So I took a bio and biochem, OChem at community college, and due to I really recommended it just because the difference between having like 30, 40 people in your class versus like hundreds, it's very big, and I felt like I was able to learn a lot more from the professor, and we actually had like lab components to the classes, which at Davis they don't have, I think. And like we learned a bunch of lab techniques that a bunch of people from Davis don't even know yet. But the big pro to 4 year is you get to get involved in like extracurriculars a lot more, with research, internships, and like there's a lot more student orgs and clubs to join that were even found. So like I've been a lot more involved with extracurriculars at 4 years, but as for like academics, it's very much easier to learn at community college.
I think that for me, the minuses, I'll start with the negative, were that I missed out on this like stereotypical college experience of going out and doing those things that college students do. So I missed out on that, but I genuinely think that going to community college was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I saved tens of thousands of dollars. I'm now paying for my own education with the money that I saved up without taking any loans. I also was able to get involved, to develop a passion for a major, and then to be able to explore it in an environment that wasn't as competitive. I think community college is like being like a big fish in a small pond, depending on the type of fish you are. But it's having all of these great opportunities that not a lot of individuals are seizing. So you have so many great opportunities that you can try to participate in. You meet incredible faculty. I mean, the professors that I had in community college are still like, I still communicate with them. I tell them how I'm doing. Just like wonderful, wonderful mentors that I have. And you have more of that personalized help because the classes tend to be smaller. So I really recommend community college to anyone and everyone. And I'd love to talk more about my experience. I know Vicky shared her email. I can share my email too. I think community college is really an amazing institution.
Follow-up questions, you can write emails to everyone who shared the email. And I would like to say thank you to all of the students and to all of the parents. Have a good evening. Bye.